Hello and welcome to an impromptu transfer show that young Davis conjured out of thin air. Or was it out of several interesting little angles on Liverpool related news and to do with potential transfers in and out, to do with contracts and the like? You'd have to be under a rock to have missed some of these things. And we thought that it was worth a chat between ourselves. And in this new format that we have, we can actually show you some clips and we can listen to what people actually said. And we're gone very fancy, young Dave. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I mean, last time we spoke, we were like, we probably jump back on when there's contract news. And me and you had visions of that being three superstars doing the Axeline and announcing shirts that said things like Alexander-Arnold 2030 or things like that. However, that isn't the recent buzz, is it, unfortunately?
Not at all. Not far, not anywhere near that. In fact, I think it'd be fair to say that an awful lot of people have been running around with their hair on fire for the last 24, 48 hours. I got slightly embroiled in a conversation today about which side one should take on the Mo Salah thing, which is where we're going to start. Obviously, it's the biggest news. He is, in many ways, our biggest star, and he is hugely important, and he is the one whose contract is coming into the most kind of sharp focus at the moment, mainly due to words spoken by the man himself. We need to have a look at those. I know you've got that lined up. We'll play it in a sec. But just for the record, it's quite interesting to see how it's panned out today, Dave. I was quite taken aback by certain comments by another man who will quote and play later on as well. I found myself having to make a sort of a statement about, well, why shouldn't Mo do this and blah, blah, blah. And it seems to be the forever wars between, are you a fan of FSG or are you a fan of our own players? Or do you have some severe moral issues that you think are very important when it comes to players and how they behave? It's odd and it's interesting, and it's the perpetual debate that goes on between fans. But let's cue it up by talking about Mo Salah. It is the most pressing one. Maybe you might be able to remind us by playing the little interview that's caused all the problems.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at what Mo Salah said, eh?
There's a lot of talk about your future. What's the latest you can tell us on that?
Well, we're almost in December. I haven't received any offer to stay yet in the club, so probably I'm more out than in. So.
Would you like to stay up?
Well, I've been in the club for many years. No club like this, but in the end, it's not in my hands. So, as I said before, it's December, so I haven't received anything yet about my future. So.
It feels like the fans would love you to stay, though, given the reaction today.
I love the fans. The fans love me, but in the end, it's not in my hand; it's in the fans' hands. So, yeah, let's wait and see.
How do you feel about the fact there hasn't been an offer? Then does that disappoint you?
Of course, yeah.
And so what? Have you spoken to the club about why there hasn't been an offer?
Well, I'm not gonna go and say I'm not gonna retire soon. So I'm just playing I'm focused in the season, and I'm trying to win the Premier League or hopefully the Champions League as well. But yeah, it's a disappointed, but we'll see.
So a couple of things there we can focus our attention on. I'm very interested to hear your take on it. First one is, right, the straightforward expression of disappointment. I think that's fair. I think that's warranted. I don't think anyone can have any issues with that. There's the how it happened in the first place, which a lot of people are taking issue with, that Mo famously doesn't go to speak to people in that mixed area or mixed zone or whatever you call it. He's gone a handful of times, maybe 2-3 times. This one he went with a very deliberate way, made contact in a very deliberate way, didn't have to be asked, went over to sort of put his case. Now, I don't think he says anything that's unreasonable. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm going to come straight out ahead of the curve here and say, I don't think there's anything unreasonable about that. Why shouldn't he leverage whatever he can leverage? It's the man's career. Maybe you might want to think about that before you start getting all moralistic about, your take on whether or not it's appropriate or whatever. That's just my take. I'm not going to fight with anyone over it. The other thing that makes sense to sort of pull apart there is this idea that he's concentrating on the season. And if you recall, the little bit that's missing from the end there is where Virgil comes over and he says, me and this man here, we want we want to play at the top level.
Yeah.
It couldn't be more obvious, Dave. He and Verge want to play with Liverpool. They want to see out the best years of their career with us. It's getting difficult to do any arguing on the behalf of the people who have not made those contracts happen now.
Yeah, the thing is with this, and Sunday night, we were absolutely buzzing, weren't we, Trev? We'd just beaten Southampton. You looked at that league table. It was an absolute thing of beauty. 8 points clear. We were bouncing into Real Madrid. We were bouncing into Manchester City. Everything was feel good. And then this came out. And I think it's part of the emotional swirl taking everyone. I mean, I agree with you largely. If Mo wants to stop in the mix zone and talk, he's right completely. His option to do that. And by the way, journos, as we know, are desperate to get words off him. They usually expect not to. They're disappointed. But when they can, they will, and they're desperate to. So there's that bit as well. If there was and I mean this, I am 99.99% on Mo Salah's side. The phrasing is interesting. I know he says they haven't made him an offer and he's disappointing. We also know, Trev, quite clearly, they are speaking. They are speaking, him, me, the club and everything. They are trying to do a deal. That is what we're trying to do. The fact that he's coming out saying this does make me think that there is a gap. It would make you think, and you're assuming we don't know, but there's a bit of a significant gap. Otherwise, you don't think he'd be sort of weaponizing it at this time and leveraging these comments. Either way, ultimately, do I care too much? No. Am I going to criticise Mo Salah? No, I absolutely adore the man. He's my favourite player. When him and Virgil, who appeared in the clip as well, we are both desperate for them to stay. The only little tidbit for me, I think, is this is all part of the dance I'm feeling still. We're still in this. It's still, he wants to stay. Virgil wants to stay. People forget little things that happened on his last renewal. Like, do you remember last renewal before Palace? He made some comments, then he was on the bench. There's been little bits with Mo before. By the way, as well, Trev, if anyone's not seen it, watch Arne Slot's press conference today. He was absolutely sensational in the way he dealt with it and handled it. And Salah said, I'm more out than in. I love that line that Arne Slot gave today when he said, by the way, in my lineups, you'll notice Mo Salah is more in than out. So he's making it clear what he thinks. It's almost at the point now where I am hoping it's all just part of the dance, but please, for the love of God, we need to get this done. You've seen how important he is. We're talking about an elite player. And I know people will be on the saying of, you can't just give him what he wants. Yes, I do get that, but we need to compromise big time. Mo Salah might need to compromise a bit, but we just cannot afford to let Mo Salah go. That is my honest take on it.
The starkness of the phrase "more out than in" is what kicked me in the face. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. There's no way around that. You can't make that good. So let's tease it out. Let's go where you drove it. Is he using it to leverage? Is he using a situation to leverage a better deal for himself? Yeah, of course he is. Would you suspect that he should do anything different? Is it right to expect or fair to expect that he does anything different? I don't think it is. So let's just lean into that and say, okay, he's playing the game. He's not feeling respected by the offer he's been given, because you and I are both assuming that there is an offer there and that there is ongoing negotiation. What everybody is a fraction worried about, some people far bigger fraction than others, is the possibility that there is no offer, that Liverpool in this current iteration are stalling because they're starting to think that maybe there are different available options to them. That's the part that's making everybody lose the run of themselves. That little fear in me is it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's an irrational fear, and yet it's there. And because it's there, and because FSG have a history of being frugal, it's going to rumble on until it doesn't. There's rumors, Dave, that the owners are in town. Can you confirm or deny?
Yeah, the owners are definitely in town. They were present at the Southampton game. They're actually there for a few days before. This might be our classic where we hope and we're leaping a bit and taking a leap of faith. But in traditional terms, we hope John W. and Linda are here in their ball gowns and their tuxedos and the full lot to cut 3 big fat checks. That would be the dream, wouldn't they? And we get a presentation with those big Bruce Forsyth 1980s cardboard jobs and everything like that. That would be the absolute dream. So, yeah, you do hope, and this is hope. This is not fact. I want to be clear on this. We know they've come over before, usually when there's business being done, isn't there? Or certain things that need to be sorted in terms of contracts, transfers, and it's not always worked out. We think of things like the Caicedo situation, but the hope we have, Trev, is they were there to cut checks. That's their job. That's how we see Suits. Let's hope they're cutting some very, very shortly.
Couldn't agree with you more. It's an old-fashioned way of looking at things, and it's become very in vogue to involve yourself in the scrutiny of the club's finances. I'm not sure how I should put this, but I couldn't give a shit. Honestly, it does. I've said it a million times. That bottom line stuff does not keep me warm at night. It doesn't light my fire. Couldn't give a crap. Just give the man the money. Let's get on with it. He wants to stay. I think it's patently obvious. Now, there are people out there who are, conspiracy theorists will think they have been briefed, that they are there to speak on behalf of the opposite side of this particular dance that you've outlined. One such human is Jamie Carragher, who, let's be honest, has a little bit of a cheek, given his own contract stories, and especially the last one, and how that got over the line. I saw him snapping back at someone, which he's done to me in the past. Fair play to Jamie, when he didn't like what I was saying about him and Neville, which is inarguable. And he went away after I responded again, just disappeared. And that's fine. And I loved Carragher when he was playing for us, right? But since he's been a pundit, I think an awful lot of the stuff he says is for the sake of saying it. It has the feel of bait a lot of the time. I don't understand his outrage with Salah, his disgruntlement, his idea of disappointment. But I know you have the clip lined up, so let's listen to it and then we can react to it.
Yeah, let's have this. We'll see if, come on, browser, don't block me.
Been conversations, there's not been an offer from Liverpool for their iconic player, Mo Salah.
Of course, there's been discussions. Yeah. Right now, there's obviously a big difference in the valuation. What Mo Salah and his agent value themselves at, whether that's financially or in terms of length of contract, to what Liverpool do. So the reason Liverpool wouldn't have offered a contract yet is because Mo Salah will turn it down. So they're still in talks. Maybe I'm desperate for them to meet in the middle. But I must say, I am very disappointed with Mo Salah.
Why?
That interview last night after the game, and it comes out today. Liverpool have got Real Madrid midweek and they've got Manchester City at the weekend. That's the story for Liverpool right now. And Mo Salah, we're all quite aware, certainly the local reporters are in Liverpool, that in the 7 years he's been at the football club, he's stopped in the mix zone twice, which is right, which is absolutely fine. But he decided to stop for the third time away at Southampton on the back of winning Liverpool the game and putting that out.
So I have a question to put to you. The disappointment thing is based on the fact that he's trying to suggest that in some way Salah is making the whole narrative about him and will, as a result, make us all sad as fans and somehow derail Liverpool's attempts against both Real Madrid and City. To that, I would simply say, have you seen how Mo Salah has been playing through this period of time when his future is up in the air? Have you seen how Virgil van Dijk has been playing through this period of time when there is no available contract on the table? How can you question these guys and their commitment to the club? And how delicate does he seem to think the squad is? Because it's not like they haven't been talking about this every freaking day between themselves at training. What does Jamie Carragher think happens at training? He's been a professional footballer. He knows the banter will have been exclusively about that amongst themselves. It will have been thick and fast and vicious and constant. So I ask you, what possible reason has he got for pontificating about disappointment in this context? It makes no sense to me, Dave. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why? If his argument is it's somehow derailing our season or taking attention away from these important fixtures, I really don't think he's been watching what's happening.
Yeah, when it first came out, and it was a small bit, I was the bit, man, I wasn't like mad or angry at Mo. My part was, it was almost like, this just ruins a bit of my positive bounce a little bit that I'm going through, you know, for everything like that. That was the only small thing. What I can't get my head around is this whole Monty Python style, like, he's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy, but you're calling him in the top 5 players ever, and you're very disappointed in him. Mo Salah has earned the right to say if he wants to. It's not for you to sort of make judgments that way. And ultimately, like you said, Trev, this is the absolute box for me. Regardless of what's going on off the field, as Mo Salah not proved for 7-8 years, he is, as Robbo described him today, the ultimate professional. As Arne Slot said today, I've not seen any change in Mo yesterday. I've not seen any change in Mo today. And Arne Slot also referenced in the press conference, well, he talked after Manchester United and he's talked before. How's that gone? I'll tell you, he's been the best player in Europe for a period, hasn't he? Like, just in case you're uncertain. And I think Robbo also got it right. He mentioned the other two. He mentioned Trent. Well, you could talk about the same with Trent and Virgil, but those 3 players, the other 3 members of the leadership group, are absolutely focused on their job day in, day out. So if they can do it, as Robbo said, what excuse have the rest of the squad got? Absolutely nothing. I think it is a little bit of the whole TV thing and the need to develop a narrative that Sky have and do it. But passing absolute judgment on a player like Mo Salah, just get off with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, Mo Salah, we know he's going to be focused. Yes, there is a small bit, because I always like try and balance it fairly, as you know. I know there's a bit like me thinking, could it have been done at a different time? Yes. But is it his right to do it? 1,000%. And we should defend his right to do it. Because, by the way, he saved us on Sunday and he saved us a million times before. And if he's feeling a sense of frustration, by the way, you said it earlier, Trev, there's a lot of silence in this whole scenario. And that's where I think people's fears are coming from a little bit. Now Mo Salah spoke a bit and a few people are having a go at him. Which way do you want it? Do you want silence? Do you want people speaking honestly? Like, you can't have it both ways. So, yeah, for me, the absolute judgments and disappointment, get over it. We just resolve badly, though, don't we? So badly.
And as to that feeling or the concept of, which I fully get, where you were saying that it took the sheen a little bit off the absolute glory of the gap that opened up with City, the fact that we play Real in the midweek and at Anfield on a European night. It was exciting. There was exciting times. But Dave, I say to you, in all fairness, what changed when Mo Salah spoke? What changed for the worse? Literally nothing changed for the worst. In fact, his leveraging of the situation hopefully has made it a better situation for us, in that we will hopefully have some action and response from the club. And they will cave to what his cynical and selfish actions were on the day to make it about him. I remind people again, he gets one go at this. This is his career. And if he wants to take advantage in a way that's perfectly legal to do so, when he's feeling disappointed by what he's been offered by the club, and when he is saying the stark phrase that he is more out than in, you do what you're going to do, big man. Make whatever suggestions you want to make. you haven't upset any of us. And we know that when it comes to the game against Real Madrid and it comes to the game against Manchester City, Mo Salah will want to be the best player on the pitch, and that's okay by me. I hope it does work in our favor, Dave. I hope it is one of these things that sort of works to the betterment of the situation. There are more contract talks. We've mentioned the fact that FSG are in town. Is there anything by way of whispers? And we're going to bring this eventually, I suppose. We should bring it to Trent. And we've also got a certain Michael Owen to talk about here. So let's work in a few of these topics together. First of all, the other contract boy is Trent Alexander-Arnold, who we heard very positively is back in training. And I don't think he's going to play in certainly not in the Real game he certainly won't start, but it would be great if he was available to start against City. And this is all very positive. Him not being available for the Real game is very interesting, Dave. Very interesting. I know there's the comments of a Real player, certain big pal of Trent's, that you want to bring up as well. So let's maybe focus on Trent for the moment, talk about what Michael Owen said about him, what you made of that actually, and maybe then we could go to a certain Real Madrid's players' take on the Trent situation.
Yeah, it's interesting, Michael Owen. And even just as you say the name, Michael Owen, it will evoke reactions in people, won't they? Because obviously everyone knows what happened, the history of Michael Owen. A lot of people have got the take on that, him then going to United and all that. So that's the natural starting point. Yeah, he did the interview, didn't he, with Trev and Chris Baskin, talking about Trent and saying about it. And in typical Michael Owen style, Trev, he always turns it back round to himself, doesn't he, and his career, because that's just what Michael Owen does with every interview. People might have clocked that. But it's when he says specifically, Trent's done everything for Liverpool. He adores Liverpool. If he's going, no one should begrudge him a different experience in his life and career. I think there's a part that if few other players say that, you could maybe understand it. But just because it's Michael Owen a little bit, it sticks in your craw, doesn't it? A little bit, just because of who it is and his reaction. Then he talked about the moment I chose to go to Madrid and blah, 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 my career. And it's the bit where he almost, for me, just a lack of self-awareness in typical Michael Owen, a little bit with his, oh, well, I'd love to go back, but I'm not loved. And I know the reaction. I dread going back there, that type of thing. And just a lack of self-awareness for me on Michael Owen's part, as typical. The ego of Michael Owen. The thing is, whilst Michael Owen was with us, he was unbelievable, Trev. No one should have any revisionism about Michael Owen at Liverpool. Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or at Liverpool, didn't he? That's how good he was when he was there. Probably the peak of his career, really, before injuries. The speed, France 98, the goals, the trophies that he was part of, all those things he did. He should really, if you just look at that bit, think, he must be adored at Anfield. No, because you're not adored at Anfield when you leave that late in the day to Real Madrid to pick up a paltry fee. You're then definitely not adored at Anfield when go and join Manchester United later and try and say, well, Liverpool didn't match it and all this, blah, blah, blah. And then these type of comments. So, yeah, it's one of those. Michael Owen is essentially not double negative, not completely wrong. I know it in what he's saying, but it's Michael Owen, isn't it, Trev? You just wonder, he's never going to have that self-awareness, is he? That's probably the best way I can put it.
Look, the man has a storied career in social media of making a ham of himself. But you're right to touch on the excellence of that guy in the early part of his career when he was with us. He was Wonder Boy. There was nobody like Michael Owen in the world. I've heard Dave Hendrick, who's, by the way, launching a very distressing campaign in my direction to get me to be sound again, because apparently you have to be on Blue Sky to be sound. I'm not having it. You can just keep going with your Christmas trees, Dave. It's not going to happen. But Dave did mention that, we have to remember how good Owen was. I remember how good Michael Owen was. It felt like we actually had a world superstar on our hands. And in that team that won the treble, it was just so exciting to see him doing bits. And there's a little aspect of his move to Real Madrid that's exaggeratedly blamed upon him. You know, he was not the one who was doing the deals. Similarly, there was talk about re-signing him on Rafa's watch, and he didn't really want to do that. So he ends up at Newcastle. It goes to shit for him there because of his injuries and all the rest of it. He's flying in and out in his helicopter to training, whatever. The fella has the capacity to disappear up his own rectum when he's talking. He does, like you say, seemingly lack that self-awareness. These are two separate things. To Michael Owen the player, Michael Owen the lad. And if there is at the heart of it some really decent advice for Trent saying, hey, don't fuck this up, man. You have the opportunity to be a lifetime legend at this club. I am no longer loved. I wish I was. It hurts me that I'm not. If that is the essence of what Michael Owen's saying, I think well played, Michael Owen, on this. But like you say, because it comes couched in certain terms, and because it's the lad who has a history of, let's say, just like you say, making a lot of stuff about him, then it's a double-edged sword of a thing. It is very, very interesting. But he wasn't the only one talking about Trent. Jude Bellingham's been talking about Trent as well. Now, this went over my head completely because I've been very busy with work for the last day and a half, so I missed this. So could you fill people in on what it was that Bellingham said? And is there anything controversial to it, or is it just fair enough?
Yeah, there was this. He was put up by Real Madrid for their Champions League press conference, and he answered a few bits, actually. He answered about his move to Real Madrid and obviously Liverpool interest, and he did put quite, I wouldn't say cat amongst the pigeons, but he was quite honest and direct and said that the Liverpool move was never really close in that regard. And when Real Madrid come in, you know, that changes everything, which wasn't really a big fan of, but there we go. That is what it is. It's what happened in his eyes. And then there was that he was asked about Trent, and he kind of did it with a smile, which I get in essence, that saying, Trev, you know, well, he's my good squad, we're great pals, and obviously I think he's a brilliant player, blah, blah, blah. And it's that last line. We'll have to see what happens, though. No, we don't, Jude. You can just shut your handsome puss. You can just fuck off in that England team behind the scenes, trying to do your thing. Curtis Jones needs to know he's in that squad. Separate the pair of you. Spread rumours about Jude. Do whatever he needs to. And it's just that worry, isn't it? That Jude's done so well. He gives the statesman-like look, the right approach, the right feels and everything like that. You do think in terms of the way the scales are bouncing for Trent at the moment, Jude's got his finger on one side, which we really don't like. So, yeah, in essence, Jude Bellingham, if you just shut the fuck up, that will be greatly appreciated.
I mean, it's hard to disagree. There's at least one conspiracy theory floating around at the moment, which is that Mo Salah, in a very calculated way, decided to take all the limelight, which may potentially have been on Trent. What with the Real Madrid game coming up, it would have been an awful lot of talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold, but now it's all going to be about Mo Salah. I love that particular theory. I don't think there's anything calculated in advance. Maybe Mo could have had a stinker against Southampton and wouldn't have come out. Who knows? I really don't know. But it's it's just an interesting observation that somebody made. As regards Jude, yeah, look, I can't say I blame the kid, right? If he wants to have Trent as a teammate, and honestly, who wouldn't? Trent in that team, it's PlayStation nonsense, isn't it? That's what it is. It's PlayStation nonsense. Oh, we'll get Mbappe, we'll get Jude Bellingham. Oh, let's get Trent for it right back. That's what it is. And I've said it a million times in shows. If you think Trent, as a kid of his age, isn't incredibly influenced by that concept, you're mental. Because that's exactly what's going around in his head. Not just the idea of playing for Real Madrid, playing for the Real Harlem Globetrotter Galactico thing. It's going to appeal to the ego of any footballer. So it's worth considering. I think we've left ourselves possibly a little bit short on time. So let's get through what we have on the rest of it. We have some not great news about Tsimikas. And it means, of course, that Andy Robbo is going to have to be relied upon, because it looks as if Arne Slot's not interested in the least in doing what I want them to do, which is to play Joe Gomez at left back. We have definitely now, because of this, gotten back on the train where we're thinking about, well, hey, this is the area we need to address. And we also have this midfield area that we need to address that isn't going away. It doesn't matter how well people play. It doesn't matter how many good results we get. The fact that we don't have this player of the profile that we have chased summer after summer means that we are missing a piece of the jigsaw. That's just a fact. Anyone who's trying to finesse around that is missing that fact. Yes, we can make amends. Yes, we can have lads doing bits and pieces. We can be delighted that Gravenberg's managed to adjust his game to do tracking runs now and stuff like that. It's all wonderful that it's working out. But if you think that we don't need that player now, then you are missing a very clear intention that our club has had and successive managers have had. So if there is anything you want to chat about with the left back and midfield areas, let's do that next.
Yeah, so left back, we know Costa Tsimikas has rolled his ankle in training, hasn't he? So we are waiting to see the full extent of that. We don't really know. I mean, Robbo, I adore. Let's get it right. He's a Liverpool legend, an absolute bargain. He's been a brilliant servant, but he is towards the end of his time at Liverpool. We all know that. He has struggled with form this season. There's nothing wrong with saying that. This is a really bad time for Tsimikas to have that knock, isn't he? Because let's be honest, Trev, in current form, he probably is the first choice left back. Let's be honest about that. And we don't really want to see Robbo playing 3 times a week. So hopefully Gomez comes in. However, asked around, nothing different from last time at all. There is zero expectation from everyone we're asking that we go into the market for a left back and bomb one of them out this Jan. There's just nothing that indicates that at all. We can't pretend there isn't. Midfield-wise, do you remember the old boy who likes the mountains, the PowerPoints, the old, wonderful like Do Re Mi or whatever Big Martin's doing up top in Sociedad? Yeah, this came out from quite a few respectable sources. It's got to be said, Trev. Real Madrid like Zubimendi. This is an interesting one because Real Madrid are an unbelievable side, but they have lost something. There isn't a bit of imbalance to them. And it's not like he's a direct replacement that way, but they really miss Toni Kroos, don't they, and his ability to dictate a game. Not quite ending, maybe more metronomic, keeping it going side to side and being that controlling element. But there are a lot of strong suggestions that Zubimendi is wanted there, which then throws up things like, as we mentioned last time, Tchouaméni and all sorts of things. So we don't know anything's going to happen in January, but it will be interesting to see if anything does come about with Martin and Real being in the mix. And the only one thing I would say, like you mentioned, when we talk about signings, this is the only player we know for definite Arne Slot really likes. He's talked about him in a press conference and he mentioned it before. We obviously get rumours, we chat as we do. No one pretends to know exactly everything, being ITK. What we do know is Slot wanted Zubimendi. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
For sure, and you're right, the knock-on effect with Tchouaméni is going to be a story, whether it's a story or not. We have no proof that Arne Slot is any interested in him. We know the club liked him before, but it will be a story. It'll continue to be a story if this Zubimendi link is real to Real. That's very, very interesting. To do a little bit of a roundup then, to maybe recap some stuff from our last show and just go through these as bullet points, because I'm kind of conscious of not keeping you too late. I'm the one who's running late this evening, so maybe we do another 5 or so. We had Marmoush, Semenyo, Brian Mbuemo stories last time round. Whether they were stories or not, they were names that were being linked. And you've just said that there is nothing concrete coming out of any local journals about direct links for players. The only thing I saw or I've seen that has any sort of heft to it seems to be players who would be unknown to most people, punts, that type of thing. Not anything that's going to make people wild excited. However, there are some other targets, apart from Marmoush, Semenyo and Buemo. This time, since we last did a show, there is talk about the Brighton kid, Baleba. There's also a kid from Sporting, is it Quenda?
Yeah.
And is it Bade at Sevilla as well? So I wouldn't mind getting the rundown on those to finish us off today. And if there's anything more to be said about Marmoush, Semenyo and Buemo, or any of the previous existing links, however real or not they were, do fill us in on that too.
Yeah, with the other names in the mix. So like we always do, we ask around, we harangue, see what we can get through various sources. Bade, the Sevilla centre-back, the only info we really got on him, we couldn't get much, that was, remember that word, opportunistic? The only way he would really come into the mix, Trev, is because Sevilla are quite desperate in their financial situation. If he was picked up as an absolute bargain, that would be the only thing that Bade might come into the mix. There's nothing we can get that indicates he's like a top target centre-half that they want to bring in. It's more if it was too good to turn down. So I won't really class that as solid particularly at all. We'll do one that's less solid. We asked about Quenda because that name would come up. The only thing, and this seems to be from a lot of people, the agents are talking the player up. Yes, he is a young talent, apparently. I'm not going to pretend I watch sporting games. That would just be an absolute lie completely. But it does seem to be the agents talk, very much trying to fan interest and suggest that Liverpool are watching, City are watching, all these types of things, because you have to accept, especially in Portuguese football, that's the model, isn't it? These clubs try and buy low, sell high. That's how it operates as well. So there's very much a agent whip up there, was our info on that. The one I've left till last for the ones, Baleba. And I'll be honest, when I saw this name, I thought, yeah, great, there's nothing in it. Asking around quite a few people, Trev, and sort of the best people, as you know, that we get saying, yeah, Liverpool like this boy. The issue is, Liverpool like this boy. Brighton are arguably the best run football club in the Premier League, aren't they? You could argue they're in that category. We know how well they sell. How much would be the price for Baleba in the summer and his age and everything like that? So that comes into the mix as well. Does it take it beyond what we like to pay, what we consider a good deal? So yes, we like Baleba. There's very much an interest there, but it's one of those. If someone says he's 100, and I'm making this up, people, before anyone jumps on me for this, if they say they want 125 million, I think we could see that interest distinguished quite quickly, couldn't we, in all honesty? So it will, if there's anything in the summer, yes, he's liked, price there. Bade would have to be absolute opportunistic. Quenda was very much, we were told, agent talk. So that's what we got. And I know you asked me for kind of a roundup. Marmoush we had last time, very much liked by the club. If one of the forwards leaves, that's the big thing to say, but very much liked. Semenyo, big analysts are a big fan of this boy, almost see him as that next Jota type, that his trajectory is going all the right way. He's not a sexy signing, I appreciate, for a lot of people, but he is really liked by the analyst side at the club. And Buemo, we said that, yes, he scored quite a few the opposite way, a lot for the analysts, that Liverpool have really cooled in recent times. And I kind of get that as well, because they look at him as well-performing or outperforming, his XG. So I don't really see Brian and Buemo potentially, which I don't think will disappoint too many, at Liverpool in the near future. The big things we said, people might have forgot, the existing forwards, Trev. We talked about them. And we said this summer, focus on Jota and Diaz, both 28, both 2 years left to go on the contract, both looking for a wage bump. Those are the similarities. What are the differences? Jota's already had one wage bump, so he's looking to go a bit higher, which, to give big money to a player at 28 who, let's be honest, whether you love him as not as we do, he's injured an awful lot and he's got not the best injury record, you could say that. Against Diaz, who's not had a wage bump, is kind of unique in that sense. For a Liverpool forward to be here this long and not have a wage bump. So it will be interesting to see what happens with those two. But as we said last show, just a reminder, indications we had that there's not really a suspicion that both get the wage bump thereafter. So we'll have to see what that means. And then, yeah, Christ knows what happens with the Nunes conundrum. And that was the roundup from the last show.
Yeah, the Nunes conundrum is the one that was screaming in my ears as you're talking about Jota and Diaz. And I think everybody in there, we think about things simplistically. You want to hang on to the guys who are playing well, and we like the players we like, we're fond of them. But there's a real possibility that Darwin Nunes might potentially play his way out of Arne Slot's interest and be a saleable asset. Diaz is a saleable asset. Jota is a saleable asset if we can convince someone that he's not made of delicate stuff. So there could be a lot of change at the club, and I don't know if people are ready for it. I really don't. It just feels like there are a lot of things teetering there between the contract situation, between these players who are needing to move or needing to get their conditions improved. In the case of Diaz, so much potential change in this squad ahead of a new season. I want to thank everybody who's been listening live. Thanks also to Damo, to Awar, to Paul, and to Hustler, who have been in the comments. Fair play. We do appreciate that as well. And we will try to interact with comments more when we're doing a full hour show. It's just difficult. We had a lot to get through, and I don't want to keep Dave late because I've already kept Dave late, working late myself. But I think that's pretty much us, man. The one I'm excited about there is Baliba. But I know most people are already thinking, yeah, well, let's just get to the stage where the club is the one who signs Baliba first. And people are saying that second club thing that old Michael's been brought back for is probably going to be long-term the way to do that. That's a whole different show. It's a whole different ball game. Any last thoughts you want to finish us off with? This has been very much your baby. You've prepped it. I want to give you the last word.
No, hopefully. I suppose we aren't a million miles until the January window, aren't we? We're just over a month. You'd hope things will get ramping up. To obviously piss on everyone's chips, unfortunately, all the indications are we are expecting a quiet January. You never know, but maybe just the contract renewals will probably do us at the moment. I think that would be the happiest we should expect to be, put it that way.
Let's go all Ev and say, where's the Mo money, John? Let's just get it done. Let's just pay the lads so we can all relax and we can all be happy, because that, at the end of the day, is what's important, that we're happy, right? That's how it works, isn't it? Yeah. That's how football works. We'll finish it there. Thanks to Dave for another show, which he's prepped in advance and gotten all the info for. I do appreciate it. All those clips, fantastic. It gives it a whole new added dimension with this type of show for the channel. Loving it so far, I have to say. So thanks to Dave for that. I'm Trev Downey. That's Dave Davis. This is The Transfer Show. We'll be back with you very soon.